this is going to be a back-to-back episode because we have some drag-splaining to do. So very quickly, we're going to be talking about Drag Race Philippines Slaysian Royale episode 7. And of course, we're also going to be breaking down episode 8. So we're going to do 2 episodes today because we were not able to film anything last week just because weather has not been friendly for Filipinos. But of course, we are back again with a back-to-back drag-splaining. So here we go. Welcome to Drag-splaining Philippines. By the way, my name is Momo and this is Drag-splaining Philippines, where we explain the Filipino references in the Drag Race Philippines episode. It was a little heartbreaking because one of my favorite queens of all time, Yuhua, was sent home via this season's lip-sync Lollapalooza. So I actually did not see that coming, but I also was really excited to see it because I know that Suki can perform, all the other Filipino queens can perform, and Yuhua was the one who I was most nervous about. But overall, it was such a fun episode and actually very emotional because I did love that Yuhua did have that moment of all the other queens of the competition appreciating her, because I feel like sometimes we lose sight of the fact that outside of the Drag Race universe, these queens are actually really good drag queens, and some queens just aren't the best within the context of the Drag Race competition. But regardless, that doesn't mean they're not good at their job. They're all really, really good queens, and I really agree when Arizona said that Yuhua is such a positive energy when she steps into any room. That's why I always loved her ever since she made her entrance in season 10, where she was like,
I thought you were Japanese.
No, I'm Chinese, girl.
Hamasaki?
Well, you're not a real woman either.
To be honest, when I watched that episode, I really wanted to explain so much more. But I feel like the only thing that's left to be explained is the golden balut. But that's not even like a novel concept because they did do that for season 3 of Drag Race Philippines. But for the newer viewers out here, or for those who really don't know anything much about the Filipino culture, well, the balut is something very, very important. You can go back and watch our Drag Race Philippines season 3 video about it, but let me explain it again. So balut is a delicacy in the Philippines. It's pretty much street food, right? You can only buy it in the street. And they're fertilized duck embryos. So there is a little chick inside, boiled, and that's what you eat. I think if you are visiting the Philippines, it's a good thing to try. But I hate when people, especially people who aren't from the Philippines, make it seem like that's a daily meal. Like, I, for one, have eaten that baby chick once in my life. I don't particularly enjoy it because it's very, I get why people find it strange, but I feel like sometimes Westerners in particular portray it like, oh my God, they eat that every day. Oh my God, girl, no. It's not like rice, okay? It's like, even for us Filipinos, it's kind of an adventure. It is very iconic though, and that's why they use it on Drag Race Philippines. But what is the power of the golden balut? Now, for the lip sync Lollapalooza, this time, it was going to be given to one of the 3 queens who lost their lip syncs so that they can be saved from lip syncing for their life. Because at this point, the Slaysian Royale rules are suspended. And the losing queens for that episode was Venus Deluxe, Khianna, and Yuhua. Brigading ended up winning her 3-way lip sync, and she chose to award that golden balut to Venus Deluxe. Sadly, that meant that Yuhua and Khianna had to battle it out to stay in the competition. And as we've all seen, Yuhua unfortunately lost that lip sync and she was sent packing. On the flip side though, what was really cool about the episode was I think this might be the first time in Drag Race, the entire universe, to have someone perform the lip sync song live, right? Because the band Lola Amour was there to perform their song, Misbehave. Honestly, a very fitting song because these queens are always misbehaving. Anyway, that was really, really cool. Lola Amour is a very popular band in the Philippines. They've really risen up the ranks, if you ask me, because I remember getting to work with them years ago, before the pandemic. And they were just like this small, locally known band in the city. And now they are this, they're the national treasure. National treasure!
Huwag na muna nating pag-usapan.
But yeah, what a really cool moment to have the band perform live and the queens lip sync live. Very cool episode, but let us now move on to Drag Race Philippines Slaysian Royale episode 8. This episode I was really looking forward to this episode, and I know that a lot of people on Twitter were too. A lot of people were upset. There were some delays with apparently the upload of this episode. So what is up with that? I mean, I work in production too, though, so I kind of, to a certain degree, understand. But just wanted to put it out there that so many people were really unhappy on Twitter because of it. As they always do, the queens returned to the workroom after Yuhua was sent home. And I want to explain this. We've explained this last season, but that whole segment before they got out of drag to face the new day, they did do the alarma to Suki doll. So again, that's just a thing. It's actually super popular now on mainstream Philippine television, but it's got popular last season from Drag Race Philippines because the season 3 queens had this habit of just like, throwing people up in the air. I think that because she's the only remaining international queen, she was the perfect pick to be thrown up in the air. And I think that's the way of the Filipino queens to basically adopt her. I guess that's how in the drag world you're baptized as a Filipino. And actually, I think she's here. As we film, she's in the Philippines for some shows, which is really exciting. So yeah, that's what went on. Now they got out of drag and they returned to the workroom for a brand new day. So there was a little bit of conversation about what had happened in the lip sync Lollapalooza. And there was a small interaction between, I guess, Khianna and Suki that kind of led to a conversation after the mini challenge. We'll get to that, but that was really good storytelling. But the moments were interrupted because RuPaul, of course, had a message for them, and then Mama Pao stepped into the workroom. That is because she had to announce the mini challenge. And I will like to explain a terminology that Mama Pao did say, because the mini challenge was about going on a tour of the Philippines, and the queens had to like do these photo shoots as tourists. And Mama Pao mentioned piso fare. And in the Philippines, a lot of these low-cost carriers will sometimes have these promos where the fare itself, the plane ticket, would cost you 1 peso. Piso. But of course, that's not the case because then you have to pay taxes and fees and all that. So you don't really get it for 1 peso, but it does save you a lot of money if you want to travel specifically within the Philippines. There is a conversation right now about the pricing of a lot of tourism in the Philippines because a lot of them are priced for foreigners. So they're like hotel prices and restaurant prices are like skyrocketing, and like everyday Filipinos cannot afford that. Why are we paying the same as like white people? Anyway, back to regular programming. I love that they had Seven Barreto be the guest photographer for this challenge because he is iconic within the queer community. Not only is he like a great photographer, but he's known to photograph drag queens, but also iconic Filipino beauty queens. I love this mini challenge. It's so cute. It's taking a tour around the Philippines. And of course, because this is quick drag, the queens looked crazy. I feel like the craziest was Suki doll, and she said it. She said she was a lola, which is grandma. And I mean, a lot of grandmas do love traveling. And Suki did look like, those ajuma. That's what they're called. And Suki went for it. It was really, really funny. The poses were insane. Like no grandma could do that. Well, I don't know. I don't want to speak for all grandmothers out there, but the poses that Suki was doing were so wild. And she was imaginatively in the Banawe rice terraces. I think at one point it was considered as the 8th wonder of the world. And it's one of those sceneries that the Philippines is really, really proud of because they really carry a lot of historical significance. Not only visually are they beautiful to look at, but these are like terraces. These are rice farms carved out by hand originally by the Ifugao people, which is a very important indigenous group in the Philippines. Now, Banawe is up there in the north, North Philippines. So it's also one of the cooler places in the country. Cooler by temperature and also cool because of the history and the culture. So if you haven't been to the Philippines and you're planning to and you want to take more of a non-traditional route, I think you should go up north and check out these rice terraces. Ooh, I think in UK versus the World season 2, when Marina competed, she had one runway look that was an homage to the rice terraces. Then we have Brigading, which I love that she went to Batanes. That's one of my dream destinations. In the Philippines, Batanes is known for how unique it is just because I feel like it's the northernmost point. Batanes, the Batanes group of islands are like so up north of the Philippines. They're almost in Taiwan, girl. They're almost in Taiwan. And a lot of people have been saying that it's like the New Zealand of the Philippines. But it's so far up north that there's so much beauty in it that's kind of untouched. And again, because it is so far out there, flights to that place are so expensive and rare. But that goes to show you how majestic that place is. And I do think Brigading was able to like show its beauty through her weirdest funny poses, which is weird, but very effective. And then we have Venus Deluxe, and her tourist spot was Boracay. I'm sure a lot of you already know so much about this beautiful island. And Boracay is known for its white sand, which is weird because like I don't think Boracay is the only white sand place in the Philippines, but it's the most heavily visited just because of how at this point it's the most accessible. Like it's so easy to get there. And I mean, it's such a tourist ready place, but it is really beautiful. Yeah, so there's not much to explain. I think you guys know what Boracay is. And Venus was crazy. Okay, I will just say, Venus was insane. Let's move on now to Miss Arizona Brandy. And I feel like she did not have a hard time with this challenge. I mean, she always behaves like this, mini challenge or not. But also, I love that she got Chocolate Hills. And Chocolate Hills is in central Philippines. It is in the island of Bohol. And the reason why it's called Chocolate Hills is because there's this group of hills. They're usually actually green, but there are times of year when it's a little drier, I guess. And so the plant life sometimes turn brown in some times of the year. And so they look like chocolate hills. I've never been. I actually want to go as well because a lot of people are saying that it's beautiful over there. It was in the news several years ago just because there was a resort. Someone built a resort in the middle of the hills, which people were like, that's ruining the look. If you're planning to visit the Philippines, it's one of those places that is very fun to go to. Last girl to do her mini challenge was Khianna, and she was taking pictures in front of the Mayon volcano. Now, the reason why it's so visually pleasing, that place, is because it's almost like a perfect cone. Like it's a really beautifully shaped volcano. Yeah, if you look at it, it does look AI because of how perfect it is. And I think it got a lot of attention recently internationally because when Catriona Gray, a former Miss Universe, won her pageant, she referenced it in her gown. And so her gown looked like the flow of lava, right? And she said she was inspired by the Mayon volcano because that's where her family's from. Yeah, that was a fun challenge. And my gosh, Khianna won this mini challenge yet again. She's had 4. I think she's had 4 this season alone. And I think she's won a lot in her original season. So, girl. Of course, the mini challenge comes with a prize, which we will talk about when we get into the Maxi challenge, which is right now. This week, the Maxi challenge is DragCon Slaysia, which is a really cool idea. I know that there are actually rumors that there was actually going to be an Asian DragCon and the hub was going to be Bangkok. Those were the rumors. I don't know, but like that could be a thing. Maybe one day. Anyway, so the challenge is the queens have to set up their own DragCon booths. You have to think about the design of the booth. You have to think about what the activities are when fans come up to the booth. Really, really cool challenge. Reminded me of the season 10 challenge from Drag Race US where they had to do panels. So that's a challenge. And I'm sure that these queens are creative. Plus, Their fans were going to be Precious Paula Nicole, the guest judges for this week, and Sasha Colby. So back to the mini challenge prize. Khianna won the advantage of choosing one queen to take off a minute of their preparation time. And she was still playing the game. She, of course, went for the lone international queen. But they did talk about that when they were prepping, right? She was like, so like Khianna talked about the fact that, well, Suki didn't want me to pick my song. And so I was just returning the favor, which honestly, yes. That totally made sense. But it's just interesting to me that, you know, Khianna always had these picks all the time, and she always went for the international jugular, if I may. But let's focus now on the Maxi challenge, and it opens with, of course, Mama Pao cutting the ribbon, and she is getting more unhinged with this Filipino style jokes because she was like, I would like to say a few words. I don't know if that's gonna fly and be funny with a lot of the other people watching the Friendship, but for Filipinos, that is stupid and so funny. That is Filipino humor, which I think Mama Pao does a lot on her noontime show because she hosts Eat Bulaga, which is an iconic noontime show in the Philippines. Always does that there. And she's now able to bring so much of it to Drag Race Philippines, which is unhinged. Booth number 1 was Miss Brigiding's DragCon booth, which was, I was like, when Mama Pao announced the challenge, I was like, oh, this is going to be interesting for Brigiding, just because in her original season, they were always talking about like, what is your brand? And, you know, over the years, as I've said in the previous episode, she has since figured it out. And she's really known for her own online show where she interviews other drag queens. And the booth that you see that she created was very heavily inspired, if not the same as the setup of her show. So that was really, really cute. But at the same time, I can totally see that she knew who she was. So she definitely knew her brand, and that Sasha Colby and Precious Paula Nicole had a really great time. I think Brigiding was one of the queens who really let the fans experience the moment by letting them initiate everything, which I guess maybe damaged her chance at the win at the same time, because it did seem like at some points she was having fun, but she was not as in control as like you compare it to like Arizona or Suki. But it was so fun to watch because I feel like this challenge was really about the combination of a legit DragCon booth, but this was also kind of an improv challenge. Okay, let's move on to the second booth, which was Suki Dolls. Now, Suki Dolls was probably my favorite booth just because it felt like an actual booth. I've never been to a DragCon, but like I would want to go to that booth because number one, she was selling her designs and then she was going to custom design something for you. And I'm not sure if she's actually going to make it, but that was really funny because she had that gag of look over there. Hello, Miss Jada Essence Hall. But it was really fun. You can definitely tell that Sasha and Precious were having such a great time. And I think it was because Suki knew what she was doing. She knew what she was going to give to her fans. And she's experienced. She's been to multiple drag cons, as she's mentioned. So she really knows how everything goes. And I think Suki is slowly but surely turning into a Filipino queen because earlier in the episode, she mentioned Lola, right? And then for her DragCon booth, she gave Sasha Colby a La Susu, which is basically a labubu with boobs, which because susu in the Philippines is boobs, suso. Now let's go to the booth of Miss Venus Deluxe. I've been calling the queens Miss today. Respectful ladies. What I love about Venus is she has a very clear visual brand. When you see like a mouth or lips, you know that it's her. And I love that she utilized that for her DragCon booth. There were so many good ideas with her booth, but I think it was true. She was really rushing through her thing because she did say in her confessionals that she forgot that it was like not a purely improv challenge. Because like Venus can host, you know, she always has really good ideas and she also knows how to run a show. And I feel like she was not able to let that go. It's like she had a producer in her ear, like, get on it, which she did it. So I'm really not sure what got into her head and why she was rushing through the whole experience, because she had so many great ideas. So I think that what happened was there was not much genuine interaction, which really hurt the whole performance. But having said that, if this was a branding thing, I think she succeeded. Now we have Arizona Brandy. And of course, her branding is very close to my heart because it is alcohol. No, but she was very, very clear about her branding. If you see her booth, this was legitimately what you would see in her booth in DragCon based on the research. And it's very inspired by, because a lot of the packaging of alcoholic beverages in the Philippines do look like that. And definitely that's what she was going for. And because she is an alcohol queen, that's her name, Brandy. The vibe of her booth was kind of a speakeasy, which is of course. What I really loved seeing in her performance though is how Precious and Sasha were clearly having so much fun. So they were just game for anything. But I think that that's something to be explained though, is drinking is a very big part of Filipino culture. So in the Philippines, the concept of tagay or pag-ikot is like everyone is going to sit at a table and everyone will have their turn drinking. It's very fun. It's kind of like a drinking game, but it's not even a drinking game. It's a responsibility. Oh yeah, and traditionally, pre-COVID, you all drink from the same glass. But of course, COVID changed that. But I mean, I don't know. If you know everyone else well enough, what could go wrong? And that's why I think Arizona has always been super successful at bringing Filipino flavor, pun intended, to her brand, because she is really the quintessential Filipino drag queen. Last but not least, it is Khianna. So when the challenge was announced, I was thinking maybe Khianna is gonna bring maybe like a martial arts thing or maybe a video game thing. I don't know. That's how I absorbed Khianna's brand when she was on season 3. So expecting some of those elements, and I didn't get to see that. And she also weirdly seemed nervous. Khianna's been known to like be this like confident queen, right? And I feel like I'm sure she's a big fan of Sasha Colby, and of course Precious Paul Nicole is iconic. I felt like she was a little nervous, and this was something that was a conversation on the runway as well, because Sasha Colby caught it. She was like, "You're in the growing pains of changing your brand," and that's true. She had just done season 3. And now she's on Slaysian Royale. So there is a lot of growth that is happening. And unfortunately, it's happening during the time she's also competing. So that's something that she had to contend with the entire season. However, she did put good effort. The way she handled it reminded me of how she handled the challenge with Mele Cantiveros on her original season. It was really funny. I just think there wasn't really a clear, solid image. There wasn't a clear, solid brand. I mean, during the end, there were like sticks, and I was like, what are these sticks for? And then she was like, oh, because there's this food that you have to eat with sticks. And then it was like, I did not get it, which is sad. I love Khianna as a drag queen, always and forever. But my gosh, I hate that this entire season was just always in her head. I think that's the growth that they were talking about on the runway, where she's transitioning from like a smaller thing to a bigger thing. And that's all fair. It just breaks my heart because she's an amazing drag queen. And it just really didn't translate in this challenge. But on the flip side, let's move on to the runways, because I think Khianna's look was amazing. I know that the judges were like, well, it's hard to top the original look, but I think that look was still really, really good. I think they were expecting to see maybe a little more skin, because that is Khianna. But honestly, I thought the look was fierce. And so were the other queens. Arizona's was so beautiful. I think, yes, this is the first time that I do think Arizona went out in something super fashionable. And then I think the best runway this episode was Venus's. I already loved Venus's original runway for this. The judges read her on season 1 for that, but loved it. Love this even more. What an upgrade. I feel like this would be a great look for a reunion. Brigadings was amazing. Again, a great callback and level up to the original look. I also loved Suki's, but when is Suki gonna fail a runway? Let's be real here. And for the first time this season, the judges got to deliberate. And after the conversations that they had, Mama Pao decided that the winners of this week's Maxi Challenge were Arizona Brandy and Suki Doll. I say well-deserved. Honestly, Suki Doll could have gotten it for herself, but Arizona's was also really good. I think that overall, Venus's and Khianna's were not perfect, but they were still actually good. So I think it made sense that they did a double winner this episode. Unfortunately, though, two queens were in the bottom. That was Venus and Khianna. And of course, they had to lip sync to stay in the game. So the lip sync was interesting because Khianna is one of the more... She's a dancing queen, right? But she was in that outfit. She was in that outfit. So I was really thinking, is Khianna gonna at one point take something off? But there was something about the look that told me it felt almost like it was one piece. So you can't just like take something off and not rip the entire thing. And so I think Khianna avoided that, which was really detrimental in her losing the lip sync because she really couldn't move it. And Brigading was onto it. She was recycling the same moves because I feel like that was really those were the only moves that she could do in that outfit. And then you have Venus, who gave herself a little bit more freedom by doing a reveal. She took off her wig, which revealed another wig, which was fierce. And she was also able to move so much more. So it was pretty clear at that point that Khianna was going home. She really, I guess, struggled a little bit with that outfit. But honestly, her dancing was still kind of fierce. If that was a number in her show, that would have still been fierce. Sadly, Mama Pao has made the decision to send Khianna home. I love, though, that for her exit, she referenced Pearl. That was really funny. And I'm sure Khianna is going to go out there a stronger and better queen. And I'm sure, just by the way she performed in season 3 and the way she performed this season, an international stint is going to be on the horizon for her. Now, Khianna might have gone home, but she did have this moment. We saw on Twitter that, you know, her season 3 sister crowned her anyway as their winner. Really, really sweet. But at this point, 4 queens remain. 3 Philippines queens and 1 international queen. Who is gonna take the Slaysian Royale crown? We don't know because I think there are 2 episodes left. Are they gonna do a final 3 or final 4? And that was it for this week's Dragsplaining Philippines. And again, we will be back next week to break down episode 9 of Drag Race Philippines Slaysian Royale. So keep it locked here on SISNE POP for more of pop culture content. My name is Momo, and I will see you all in our next video. See you soon. Goodbye.